Hello everybody, hope you're doing really well. Today we are doing the very famous story that alternates between Bluebell Hill. It's basically probably the alternative theory or version of our Phantom Hitchhikers of Bluebell Hill. But before we do that, we have to actually talk about the reasons and the motives and everything else. And we're talking about the murder of Emily Trigg, and we're literally following in her footsteps, and we thought we'd start this video literally at the place where she was last seen, or where she was working at the time, on her way back home to see her mum, on the point of actually between this on Maidstone Road, unfortunately, where she got killed. And then obviously I'll tell you more about the history and basically the paranormal aspect of all this as we go along. So stay with me and let's explore the other side of Bluebell Hill's Phantom Hitchhiker, that of the potential murder of Emily Trigg. Come on. If you looked up famous haunted sites in England, there's no doubt that Bluebell Hill in Kent would easily be one of the most well-known locations, with many a mysterious tale and haunting of different kinds. On this channel we have covered almost all of them, except for this one, that of the alternative theory that the Phantom Hitchhiker is none other than that of Emily Trigg. Emily Trigg, by all accounts, was a hard-working young woman of the period. Born in 1896 in Burham to parents John and Kate with 7 siblings, she really would have been a true local to the Medway area. Emily was working at this time as a maid, which afforded her living accommodation in a workhouse situated on Maidstone Road in Rochester. During this period in time, it was the height of World War I, and as expected, the majority of men of suitable age would be soldiers, which in Emily's case would involve a romantic element when she fell in love with George Harris, who was a soldier in the Royal Surrey Regiment, in which they became boyfriend and girlfriend. It was, though, on the 6th of August 1916, aged 20, that her life would sadly come to an end. After finishing work that day around 3:15 p.m, Emily was going to walk to see her now widowed mother Kate for a spot of tea at her house in Providence Row in Bluebell Hill. Emily was noted as wearing a pale dress and white hat. Her long walk should have taken her around about an hour to do so, as it would follow Maidstone Road, at that time straight up to Bluebell Hill, walking almost entirely uphill. Emily would never make it. Catherine Cooper, Emily's mistress at the workhouse, was the first to be suspicious of Emily's absence, as Emily had not returned back to work, assuming at first she might have been taken ill staying at her mum's. It was Kate, Emily's mum, the following Tuesday who then inquired at the workhouse as to the whereabouts of Emily. With no sign of her, they now feared the worst, so they reported to the police of her disappearance. Emily wasn't the type of person to be wandering off, as she was always one to let people know where she was going. It would be 6 weeks later that family and friends would receive the news that they were most fearing, when, on Thursday the 21st of September, a local greengrocer, John Jennings, was out picking blueberries in the woods at Bridgewood with his 2 children, when he found a dead body. It was Emily. Strangely, the body was already badly decomposed, practically a skeleton, with some strands of hair on the skull and a photo of her boyfriend George, as well as a necklace belonging to Emily, and also her bonnet and other possessions laying close by. By all accounts, it appeared as though she had been choked to death, as deep in her gullet was found a piece of material ripped from the undergarment. The first suspect, her boyfriend George, was quickly eliminated. This was because at the time of the disappearance he was in hospital in Shoreham. The only other potential suspect was another soldier that Emily had been spotted with around this time, but even though her mistress knew about this, his identity had remained secret as to not spread rumours. An arrest had been made for a gunner in the Royal Artillery at Winchester, that of a Mr. Charles Hicks, but was also eliminated as he was innocent and been brought back by mistake. With no evidence, he was discharged. No one was ever charged with Emily's murder, and to this day it does remain unsolved. So what has the murder got to do with the Phantom Hitchhiker of Bluebell Hill? Well, this is where it gets interesting, because the first real mention of a phantom hitchhiker predates the death of the bride-to-be in 1965, when, in 1934, a man on his motorbike was riding up towards the Lower Bell pub at around 11 p.m, when he saw a girl standing in the middle of the road, in which the girl hopped on the back and asked to be taken back down to Church Street in Burham, where the man had already come from. So he headed back, and no sooner has he dropped her off than she'd vanished into thin air. And this would then become one of the first documented sightings of the phantom hitchhiker. What makes this compelling is that Emily was buried in Burham Church down the road, and also, to add even more mystery, is that the clothing Emily was wearing at the time of her death, namely a white dress and hat, has been witnessed on multiple occasions since, which could be similar to that of a wedding dress that parallels the bride-to-be ghost. So who is it that people are really seeing? Noting that the 1934 sighting predates the bride, there's no doubt that Bluebell Hill really is a hive of paranormal activity, and as time goes by, will we ever get closer to the truth? Well, everybody, here I am in Burham Church, the final resting place of Emily Trigg. We started where she was last seen and where she was working, down in Maidstone Road. I've not labelled or named the exact house where she worked out of respect. I think it would be wrong for people to encourage to knock on their door and go, oh, by the way, this is the rumoured to be the famous Bluebell Hill alternative theory of who the ghost is. So I've not labelled that on this video. Tried to show a bit of respect during that as well. But we are here. We're at her final resting place. What's interesting about this is that we don't actually know which gravestone she's at. We don't actually know where she's buried in Burham Church, which is interesting, isn't it? You'd think that'd be quite easy to find. But as of recording this, we know she's buried in Burham Church. We just don't know where. It's any one of these ones that isn't labelled clearly. So obviously we can denominate which ones are compared to that. What I'd like to talk about as a conclusion to all of this is the fact of the matter is we still have to keep reminding ourselves that this was somebody's tragic life that had taken place, and even though we refer to this as the Bluebell Hill ghost, and probably people would appreciate that more on a paranormal spectrum, we still have to appreciate that somebody did die. And obviously, unfortunately, in this case, it was the unsolved murder of Emily Trigg. It's the same thing with the ghost, Bluebell Hill ghost bride. I'll put a link down below for people who haven't seen that video where we cover that. I've talked about more alternative theories to why Bluebell Hill is slightly more haunted, and I'm sure if I get a lot of views on this video and a lot of likes, what I might do on top of this is actually to do a final conclusion on Bluebell Hill itself and my own ideas and theories behind what I truly believe is actually haunting this place. But for now, we have to stick to as much folklore and rumour and local speculations to what it is, and which we feel we've pretty much covered now. But this is a fascinating story nonetheless. It's a fascinating unsolved murder. The fact of the matter is this video could have been split into two. It could have been a separate one for Bluebell Hill Ghost, and it could also have just been a crime and punishment video, which I've done before as well, on famous incidents that have happened potentially in Kent but obviously elsewhere as well. But I just want to say we have to always remind ourselves that even in a paranormal context, people did die. People did, unfortunately come to an unfortunate end. In some cases, their lives taken too early. Especially in Emily's case, we can argue with that as well. So what I want to do is conclude by just saying, in immortal words of Phoenix history, thank you so much for coming along with me. I really hope you enjoyed this video and take it for what it is. I appreciate there might have been some details that I missed. I didn't miss them, I just chose not to put them in. I just want to sort of say that. And I just want to say thank you for all of you watching out there, and hopefully you really enjoy this video. Hopefully it encompasses more about the paranormal aspect of Bluebell Hill. And like I said, this won't be a final video on this area at all, and we will follow that up at some point soon as well. Take care, everybody. And of course, because history matters, we can easily say on this as a story alone, hopefully by documenting it now on a format such as YouTube, you know, it can encourage others and hopefully look more deeply into these types of stories for generations to come, so they can look back and be really inspired to actually delve more into history. Take care, everybody. I think you know the drill by now. Are you ready? Let us kapow.